Stuck on where to move now that you've decided to move to Boston as it hits the top best places to live in 2021? I'm going to show you how to evaluate any town in Massachusetts. I love the North Shore and I think it is to die for, but I also lived along the Route 2 corridor for 17 years. Watch this video to get a former urban planner and a transplant's perspective and 5 tips on evaluating the Boston suburbs. Let's get started. For the best real estate tips and exploring the North Shore, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Thursday. And yes, everyone asks me if I have more than 5 tips, but let's just keep this simple. If you are confused and torn about where to live in the Boston suburbs, you can use these tips along with my wish list, which is available in the link below. I will tell you, I have worked with many clients that have used this formula, and now it's your turn. But before we dive too deep, I want to get you oriented as to what some of these areas are called. They're not on a map, so let's jump over to the computer. The North Shore is basically up in this area, okay, all along here. This area right here is called Cape Ann, where Rockport and Gloucester is. And the South Shore is the opposite side. So it would be this area right here. This is the South Shore area. This is the Cape, these are the islands, and we have the North Shore and the South Shore. Now, in terms of the Greater Boston Suburbs, that's considered to be basically everything like outside of this tiny little area right here. It's this whole area that goes all the way out to the Worcester area. Another area that is talked about is called Metro West. And Metro West is basically this area that runs along this Mass Pike, which is I-90. Now, there is another area that is on this 495 transportation corridor. They're trying to get this to be a new high-tech corridor. So, but this is still just called the Greater Boston Suburbs. Now, once you get out to this area, this is just called Worcester. So this whole big area, everything that is serviced by Worcester, it's just kind of called Worcester. Now you're getting out into Western Mass, and this is not very populated, but everyone talks about this as Western Mass. Now that you get the basic layout of the area, step 1, commuting. Commuting for work. Usually the bank wants to see you have an income if you're buying a house and getting a mortgage, and commuting can play a big role for a lot of people. Commuting via the car is the most flexible. The highways are usually the main corridors of transport, but there are also something called routes that people use as well. Sometimes they use it because it's the shortest distance between their house where they're living and employment. But other times it's that they try to avoid the backups on the main corridors like the 128, the 95, the 495, and the Mass Pike. The reality is, even though Massachusetts is a smaller state and you can traverse it in one day, the corridors are old, as this is a historic place. And these corridors have evolved, but they really haven't changed much. Plan on the commute time from 45 minutes to an hour. People say, oh, I can get there in 30 minutes. And well, a lot of times it's just not realistic if you're going from the suburban area into the urban core of Boston. If you're going from the city to the suburbs, yes, you're going against traffic. For example, if you're exploring the North Shore from the New Hampshire border down the 95 into Boston can be 30 minutes on weekends, but it's going to be an hour during the peak travel times. Route 1 is a workaround from the bottleneck where the 95 and the 128 merge because it always backs up at that convergence of these two transportation corridors. Going north, there's very little traffic, so say if you live in Danvers and you need to go to Newburyport, it's clear sailing. If you use the 495 and drive from Newbury to Lawrence or to Andover, it can take about 30 minutes. If you're up in the Gloucester, Ipswich, and Essex area, most people come down the 128, which changes names to the 95. And as I mentioned, it backs up really to a crawl at peak commuting time. The commuter rail is another option if your job is close to the line. If you take the commuter rail, you pay for parking and you can either get a pass for 30 days or you can pay daily. And for the commuter rail, you typically take that into North Station. If you have to get to the other side of town, you'll have to take a bus or go on the T, which is pretty slow. Most people who have to be on the south side of Boston either live on the South Shore or along the Mass Pike corridor, which is also called I-90. I don't know why the two stations don't connect, but they just don't. Buses. In a lot of other parts of the country where I've lived, say in Washington, D.C. or San Diego, there are public transportation bus systems and networks of buses that are an option. But that doesn't really exist here in the Boston suburbs. Buses are in the more densely populated towns, which are technically the suburbs, but not really. It all starts to get very confusing. Commuting for play. Now, the other half is, what do you do on the weekends? Where is it where you want to go? What is it that you like to do? So let's say pretty consistently you want to go to the beach, or pretty consistently you want to go hiking. One time I had a client tell me he was really into rock climbing, and he actually did it every day, not even just on the weekend. So he wanted to be really close to that facility. Other people play hockey at night in men's leagues. Others I know love to kayak on the weekends and want to be within 30 minutes of quiet water. And I have lots of friends that like to hike in New Hampshire, so they want to be close to the New Hampshire border. I've got a mini wish list for you to get started, and you can grab that below this video so you don't waste your time re-watching this video and getting these tips. And if you want more criteria to narrow down the perfect place to call home, we can talk about that later. Step 2 is, what type of density do you want to live in? Believe it or not, there are a plethora of neighborhoods and housing types to choose from. When I moved here, I was thinking snow, 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 and city life. And well, I couldn't have been more wrong. There is rural, horses, farming, winery, walkable towns where you can walk to restaurants and to movies, beachside communities that offer huge mansions to beachside cottages, huge swaths of land that have been preserved for wildlife and hiking trails galore, access to boating and quiet water for kayaking adventures, walkable antiquing, fun Sunday morning breakfast places, flea markets, dense neighborhoods, cul-de-sac neighborhoods. There is just so much diversity in the terms of the urban environment. There is just something for everyone. So my question is, how many people do you want to see when you walk out your front door? What is your dream view? Step 3, traffic in front of your house. A noticeable feature on any street which indicates the number of vehicles that pass by are the lines on the street. Is there a double yellow line, a white line, a broken white line, or no line? This will give you an idea of the number of cars that pass along that street. And you can do this right from your computer, even when you're not living here. I have driven all over Turks and Caicos, and it's absolutely fabulous. Also, here's a pro tip. Some of the road names are really state routes, which, if you're from other parts of the country, are like mini highways or main heavy traffic transportation corridors. So you need to start identifying those so you know not to waste your time looking at property if you don't like traffic. Step 4, where is the sun? I know this may sound really dumb, but I'm from California and I moved to New Mexico, and we moved from New Mexico here. It's sunny in those locations. We actually used to laugh at the weather report, as in New Mexico they would constantly talk about that it was going to be sunny Monday through Sunday, and it would take 20 minutes on the weather. So when I moved here, I had no idea that the sun was a huge part of my everyday life, as I like to garden and I like to do a lot of activities outside. And when I bought a house in a well-established neighborhood full of huge pine trees, well, the lack of sunshine, it was a problem. Comment below as to where you think you'll be moving, and I can help you out in this section as I monitor the comments, and I'll help try and guide you a little bit. Step 5. This is what I call the data dump, and it's my favorite tip. Doesn't it drive you crazy when you're looking at all these contradicting websites with school stores and the best towns and the best lists of everything? Yeah, it drives me nuts. I just want the facts. Thank you very much. I can make my own decisions. And that's just how I think. So evaluating the town in terms of school scores, open space, taxes, or whatever it is that is important to you, yes, whatever your values are, here is a website I love, massstats.com. It's statistical information for all of the towns in the entire state, and I love, love, love it because it's run by the state where all of the stats are calculated exactly the same. So there's nothing skewed, there's no big corporation, no one's trying to sell you anything. This is a well-kept secret, and I will tell you that a lot of real estate agents don't even know about this website. So now you know how to narrow down the communities, what you like and what works for you and what your values are and what kind of lifestyle you want. But what about the house and analyzing if the house is in a good location within the community and is it structurally sound? Well, I've got a checklist on how to identify deferred maintenance on a house. You can grab that below this video. I hope I have provided some tips and some resources for you. And if you are a buyer looking for a home, I would love to help you. And if you're a seller, well, I don't know why you would be watching this video in the first place because you already kind of know all these things. But if you are, I have a 6-step process for you to get your home ready for sale. As always here at Huddle Real Estate, we buy and sell every home as it is our own. Make it a great day.